He's Jim Stewart. I'm Rick Collins, and this is Off the Bench. We've got World Series talk. We have Matt Wixon coming in to talk Frisco high school football. Huge weekend for high school football.
One and done.
In the 13 and 5A. We're going to talk one and done. Is the rule going to be done? And then we're going to talk about right now. I mean, it's Thursday night football.
No. I'm tired. I'm protesting. Protesting Thursday night football. Do we have to?
No.
Do we have to do it?
I'm getting we have to talk Thursday night football. I'm sorry.
I thought we agreed on this. I thought we agreed off the air that we were going to protest Thursday night football.
I don't want to talk about it either, but we have to. It's NFL season. We're a sports show. We got to talk Thursday night football.
Well, at least the Bills are somewhat good and entertaining.
5-2. I mean, I look down at that.
Thought that.
I can't believe it. Every time I look down at it, I can't believe it. I look up for 2 seconds, look back down, and I'm like, how is that possible?
I think there's one common denominator that makes both these teams a little bit better. They don't have Rex Ryan. They don't.
That is the common link.
Yeah, that is. Rex Ryan destroys quarterbacks. That's what he does.
Yeah.
He just does not know how to handle them. But Tyrod Taylor has got a new weapon to test out tonight during the trade deadline.
Yeah, Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, bringing him over from Carolina, and I
can't believe they got rid of him.
Cam Newton's not happy about that, I'm sure. But Tyrod Taylor's got to be really happy about that because the Buffalo Bills have not really had the down the field threat. Sammy Watkins was supposed to be that guy, and he really hadn't turned out. Kelvin Benjamin
is that downfield
He is
threat.
that guy, and if they had a guy who could throw to him, and Cam Newton has hit him a few times, but the inaccuracy that Cam Newton's had over the last couple of years has really hurt Kelvin Benjamin's stock. Kelvin Benjamin also has struggled from injuries. But I think with Tyrod Taylor, who's got a really good arm, is pretty accurate down the field, I think that's a great weapon for them to pick up here at the trade deadline.
And I really like it because he came out of college as a running quarterback. I like the fact that he has made a real effort to make sure he's a pocket thrower. He is not he's a scrambler, but he's not a runner. He doesn't sit there, miss the first shot, and then run. He has done a really good job of picking those targets down the field. And not once since he has been the starting quarterback have we said Tyrod Taylor is the problem. It's always the defense. They don't have a good run game. They don't have a good offensive line. They need to work on their wide receivers. Their tight ends maybe aren't as great. Never has it been Tyrod Taylor's fault, and rightfully so. He has been basically a bright spot in a team that is the Bills that has been mediocre at best the last 5-6 years.
Long time. It's sad that this team they
could bring back Jim Kelly.
Yeah, they just can't. It's been that long, really. It's incredible how long it's been for them, and part of that is just how good the Patriots have been.
Yes.
And when you're playing the Patriots twice a year, and you got to play against the rest of the AFC that's been good. With the Steelers, and now Kansas City's been playing well. The Broncos have been good. It's just been a tough road to hoe for them, and they have not hoed it very well. And I think playing in Buffalo is probably not the most exciting destination for a lot of players.
And I know this is going to sound weird, but a lot of people are saying that the Jets need to win this game to keep their playoff hopes alive. I don't know. That might be like a bridge too far. The Jets saying, hey, they have a shot. The last time the Jets had a shot, a legitimate shot of doing anything in the playoffs, was when Brett Favre was their quarterback in 2009 before he tore his biceps tendon.
Yeah.
They were on fire. People were nervous that the Patriots were going to get probably dethroned that year because of how well the Jets were doing. And since then, and Rex Ryan took over, the Jets have been a mess. And like I said earlier, the common denominator between these two teams and their recovery effort has been Rex Ryan.
Yeah.
Rex Ryan was in, New York a lot longer than he was with the Bills, and he did a lot more damage in New York than he did with the Bills. Because the Bills have a tough owner and a good GM, where he was basically with.
You didn't like the way Mark Sanchez played for the Jets?
I liked how he fumbled.
He was a good fumbler.
Yes, he was a
really good fumbler. No, but McCown has actually come out and played really well this year, and surprising
career
to see
backup.
how. Yeah, and he's played phenomenally for that offense, but they just don't have enough weapons, and also their defense is they've been bad this year. This is not the New York Jets defense that we're all used to.
And they've lost 3 in a row by 1 score.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And in the same way that we looked at the 49ers before they went and played the Cowboys, they had lost 5 games or 3 games in a span of
5 games. Yeah,
5 games wasn't it? Yeah, 5
3
games,
or less points.
3 or less points. And in some ways, the Jets have the same thing going. And I
they're
think
able to stay in games.
But that's got to be absolutely more demoralizing than losing
by a lot.
Blowouts, because what they say is, what do we got to do?
Yeah.
What do we got to do to score that 1 point or that 1 touchdown or that 1 field goal to win these games? We're getting it up until that point. But what is going on?
Well,
we're obviously crumbling.
I think part of it is definitely, they don't have the future at quarterback right now. And if they did have the future at quarterback, maybe things would be a little bit different so far in the season. Maybe they would be at 5-3 and not at 3-5. But they don't. He's doing the best he can. In fact, it's probably his best year so far on record for Josh McCown. But the rest of the weapons
hard to do when you're
aren't
backup?
there. They just don't have the other weapons. Matt Forte is on his last legs. Bilal Powell is okay. He's not great. They've got a lot of mediocre pieces, but this team needs to draft. They need to draft well, because this is a team that if they age the way they're currently playing, they're going to be really bad in a couple of years.
I agree. Jets need to continue throwing the ball. They need to stay away from the run, because this Bills defense has a really good.
Unbelievable.
How good their run defense is.
Yeah, they didn't need Darius. They basically let Darius go for free because they don't even need him.
No.
They don't need him. Their defense is ridiculous even without him. And
their run defense.
Yes, their run defense.
Their pass defense, on the other hand,
not quite
is
as
leaking
good.
like a sieve. They've got to be able to stop, like you said, a fairly productive passing game for the Jets. Josh McCown, like we've made fun of, he has been a career backup. He has had some starting opportunities, but he hasn't done enough to keep any of them.
Yeah.
He's doing a good enough job now to be able to say, you know what, maybe you can sign me for another year, maybe.
Well, he's going to have to keep it up, and in this game, he's really going to have to pass the ball because, like you said, the Buffalo Bills defense is not going to let them run.
And they've got to
Matt Forte and Bilal Powell are not going to do anything.
They have got to pull a page or at least a complete section out of the Pats playbook in a sense where it's their running game needs to become the passing game.
Yeah, the short throws.
Yeah, short throws got to be their version, at least against the Bills, of the run game.
And that's
5
where
yards,
Matt
4
Forte
yards.
could be effective is in the short passing game or out in the flats, gain him into space. But
Matt Forte has not been the sense.
Forget running the ball up the middle. It's not going to happen. They've got to figure out a way to run, like you said, Pat-style offense. Short passing game, get it down the field a bit when you can, but you got to make some plays happen because otherwise this Bills team right now, they're on fire.
But let's be honest. It's not as easy as we make it out to be when it comes to pulling plays out of the Pat playbook because they're built for that.
Yeah.
They've got 2 unbelievably quick wide receivers that have the ability to get in and out of that 5 to 6 yard range, get separation, and get the ball, which is their running game.
Yeah.
A lot of other teams don't have that, and people don't realize staffing and system go hand in hand. You can't go, oh, we've got a 6'5" tight end who maybe is a strider who isn't the best at turning around and blocking out body, and we don't have anybody who's quick enough to be able to do it. We'll take a play out of their system and make it run. The reason why you don't run it is because you don't have the staff for it. You don't have the players for it. You don't have the quarterback for it. So they need to test it out. They need to pull a play or 2 out of that section and keep that section in the back burner just in case it works.
They've got to get the ball down the field. They cannot win this game if they don't complete 3 to 4 or more 20-plus yard passes because this Bills defense is not going to let them.
Luckily, don't have Dak Prescott.
They're not going to score touchdowns throwing all this underneath stuff and trying to run the ball.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen against this Bills defense. I mean, they've shown so far this year, they have been dominant in the first 10 yards from scrimmage. Dominant.
Dominant?
Dominant. They're probably the best defense of the league outside of maybe the Broncos in that first 10 yards.
So you're telling me they let go of Darius. They basically, we don't need you anymore. because of your off-field issues. You're talented, you're skilled, but we don't need to deal with those
Cowboys
hassles
could have used him.
because our defensive line is so good. Do you think they might be able to pull an Eagles? I think a 1980, late 80s Eagles where their whole line goes to the Pro Bowl?
It's possible. I think
Their
it's
defensive
still going to be a
tackles
challenge because
probably
there's so much talent around the league at the defensive tackle position. But they've got the defensive line. If there was a defensive line in the NFL that could do it, they could do it.
So this is basically the defensive line you would put up against the offensive line for the Cowboys and say the Cowboys are going to have issues.
I'd love to do it. And I think the Cowboys' offensive line is going to have issues against the Philadelphia Eagles, before they have
for
issues
different
against
reasons.
the Bills. So I would hate to see the Buffalo Bills defensive line come up against the Cowboys. That would not be the week I would be looking at.
And speaking of not looking at it, then we go and actually take a look where no one else is, and that's the one and done rule right now. We've got to make sure that what these colleges and the NBA are doing is best for both parties, and I don't think it is. Next.
We're so excited to invite you to our Stacy Furniture Anniversary Sale.
Save today on Stacy's outstanding selection, up to 50% off select items throughout the store.
Now's the time to buy that new bedroom, living room, or dining room suit. You can't beat these prices anywhere.
Name brands like Bernhard, Hooker, Universal, and Sherrill, all on sale today.
It's Stacy's Anniversary Sale only happens once a year.
Shop Stacy's today or visit us online at stacyfurniture.com.
Remember, when you're shopping at Stacy's, you're shopping with family.
Transitioning from the NFL to the NBA and college basketball, the one and done rule affects both.
And it has been something that they put into place a little bit after Kobe entered the league. They started seeing too much of an influx from high school directly to the NBA that the college game started to suffer. They started seeing subpar teams, subpar players coming out, going into the college ranks and being able to come out with some success in the NBA, which means that more kids were coming out earlier and earlier because college was not benefiting them. So the NBA took a stand and said, you have to play 1 year in college, which has ended up being ridiculous because these kids are getting 6 months of an education and then moving on to the NBA.
Yes.
They're not even graduating. They're not even completing their first year.
Well, actually, remember LeBron, even after Kobe, LeBron and Dwight Howard both came out of high school. 2005, they changed the rule. Had to be one and done. Well, not one and done. That's not what they wanted. They wanted these kids to go to college and spend more than a year there, but they said minimum 1 year. You don't even have to go to college. You can go play professionally overseas. You could take the year off if you wanted to, but you have to be 19 years old to enter the NBA. And if David Stern had had his way, these players would be 20 years old when they entered the NBA, just like they have to be 20 years old to enter the NFL draft. So he wanted it to be a very similar process of these kids have to go and physically get better and, fundamentally get better and mentally get better for a couple of years before they come and play professional basketball.
Because if they want to make this work, they need to go along the same route as the NFL. They need to make it 3 years minimum if they're going to make any impact or really try to do anything when it comes to college basketball, because these one and done thing, the kids aren't even spending enough time there to get their locker combination.
Well, it's also leading to some of these issues of the players not really taking classes.
That's what I mean. They're not even going to these classes. They're not even getting their books. They're showing up to some mediocre classes that are, or their basics are getting someone else. Yeah, Rocks for Jocks or sports management or some made up specialties or majors.
It's taught by the head coach of the team.
Yeah. And what it is they review game film.
Yeah.
But it's clearly not working for the college game right now. They've called Kentucky one and done university.
Yeah.
And I have to be honest, a lot of these players that are coming out after 2 or 3 years are better, more polished products when it comes to their first year in the NBA. Yeah, these younger kids that come out early are probably more talented.
Yeah.
But they don't produce off the bat as quickly as someone who's been in college 2
The reason Adam Silver's saying that he wants to do away with it is because there are 2 directions you can go. That's it, right? You can either make it 2 years or you can make it 0 years. You're not going to. It's not going to go to 3 years, that's for sure. But 2 years, just like the NFL, you could say, look, this should be just like the NFL. We're going to do 2 years. We're going to be, consistent across sports. But, oh, wait, baseball, they can start playing professionally at like 16, 17. Soccer, they start playing professionally at like 14 or 15, which I don't even know how that works because don't you have to be...
At 14 and 15, I wasn't athletic enough to do
Don't you have to be
any of that
16 to legally work in the United States? Otherwise, you're child labor. So, besides the point, the NBA and Adam Silver is a whole different game than it was under David Stern. David Stern wanted to have control over the NBA. He didn't want the players to have control.
Yeah.
Now we're letting the players have control under Adam Silver, which, if you look at the media attention, the excitement of the sport, the way that the players interact with the fans, there's a lot of positives there. I think it's actually more positives than negatives compared to, let's say, the NFL. But it's because Adam Silver's not trying to control all these things and saying, oh, you said this, now we're going to have to punish you because we're trying to protect the shield of the NBA.
They're a way more progressive league. If you really want to break down the difference between the NFL and the NBA, it's a player-driven league, the NBA. You get to see their face all the time. Yeah.
They're 5 feet away from you. You sit courtside, they are right there. Yeah. They're coming into the stands.
You see their emotions, all that. NFL is more of a colder, more precision, it's all about the shield in the league. Yeah. It's an owner-driven league. So, and the biggest part of this is NBA, it's easier for the NBA players to band together and protest when like a lockout or something.
Which is why I don't think you'll ever get to 2 years. I think, because of the strength of the NBA Players Association, they're going to get an Adam Silver.
Because all their money's guaranteed. They can sit out and it's basically paid vacation.
I think we're going to see the one and done rule is going to be gone. I think we're going to see that high school players are going to allow to be drafted again.
Why do you think there's such a big push?
Mark Cuban would even go further.
Yeah. Why do you think there's such a big push right now that NFL players want their contracts fully paid, fully guaranteed? And at that point,
because they're seeing baseball and basketball players making millions of dollars guaranteed money,
and they actually have the ability. Throw them away. But they have the ability to say, you know what, we're going to sit out. Yeah. And we're going to protest, and we're still going to get paid because our thing is fully guaranteed. when it's partially
baseball's
guaranteed,
done it, basketball's done it,
and I think that is what's keeping the NFL as a continuously growing league because they are not at the mercy of their players. But moving that aside with the one and done, the SECcountry.com had an article just about this where they tried to make the point that if they got rid of one and done, it would be better for college and it'd be better for the NBA. They are off their rocker if they think that this is beneficial to colleges. Because guess what? All these kids that are skilled players, Dennis Smith Jr., LeVar Ball, Lonzo Ball, all these young stars that are coming out of the AAU and high school, they would go straight to the pros if they could. They would never go to college.
Yeah.
Because what it is in high school football and high school baseball, the coaches really promote going to college, and when you watch college football, you get that bit. It almost feels like a bit of patriotism for a college that you like. So you go there and you go, I'm an Alabama fan. Roll Tide, all that. You don't ever see that in basketball.
Well, and then baseball.
You don't see that in basketball in college.
You see players drafted in the draft, but they decide to go to college. The team still holds their rights for a certain period of time and can either decide to trade the rights to that player or that player can decide they want to go back in the draft. There's some different moving parts that'll make it so that you don't just lose that player if they decide to go to college. So it's not, keeping them from deciding that college is, out of the equation for them.
What'll happen
out of the equation for the Major League Baseball
I don't care what anybody says, because they all are living in a utopian, socialist, everything's going to be perfect world if they think that taking one and done away from colleges would not affect the college game. The March Madness would collapse.
Think about Kentucky. Would Kentucky
be gone?
Have a team?
It'd be gone. All those kids won. The only reason why they're going to Kentucky is to get out of Kentucky and go to the NBA.
They would be Louisville, which is fine. They'd be a good team, but they would not be Kentucky.
Yeah. Do you think Laurie Markkinen, Dennis Smith Jr., LeVar Ball, or Lonzo Ball? I've got LeVar Ball. Lonzo Ball. Folks. All these players. Do you think they'd go to college if they had to?
No.
No, they
No
go
way.
straight to the NBA.
Especially with all that guarantee money and the risk of injuring yourself, everything else. There's no way. They're all going to go straight to the NBA. You hurt the NBA because the quality of play would disintegrate. You look at just Leon Smith is the best example. He's a local example. Came out of high school for the Mavericks. He super talented kid. But, I mean, you give all that money to a super talented kid, you give them the world.
They're kids.
They're kids. And they don't know what the world looks like outside of their parents' house. And then you give them all this money, you move them to a different city. It's just a disaster for a lot of these kids. For every LeBron, there's probably 10 to 15 guys who would get drafted without the one and done rule that would not make it.
No. And what it is this is a big difference between, because someone will come up who's against the one and done rule, and they say he needs to take it away. He'll sit there and go, well, guys from the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, they all did it.
Yeah.
They were more mature back then. I hate to say it. You look at the millennials now, and for you to say, and for anybody to ever make the claim that these kids are mature enough to handle it, these kids can't even have to live in safe spaces, and they listen to trap music, which is horrible. That judgment right there makes me think
We've lost half of our viewers already.
But that makes me think right there that they have no judgment. To think that trap music and Little Yachty's better than like Eminem
These
and Dre.
opinions do not represent the opinions of Off the Bench or UnifyFrisco.com.
So the question becomes, do you think these kids are mature enough to handle what you said?
I don't know.
If they struggled in the past, imagine what these kids who have no ability to go out on their own.
I don't know, but my guess would be is that we would see a lot more examples of Leon Smith than we are right now.
Oh.
What we're seeing right now with one and done kids is, I would say 75% of them are being successful, like transitioning into the NBA. You get rid of that rule.
I've got a good.
And I think that it lowers to probably less than 50%. And I don't know that for a fact, but just based on the experience I've had from before the one and done rule and after the one and done rule. But look, I mean, the players run this league, and I think we'll see that high school players are going to be allowed to come into the league. End of story.
I will end this debate right now. Imagine you have a 16-year-old son who is the same personality as your daughter and the kids that are your daughter's age, right? Do you think your daughter 2 or 3 years from now, or someone of her age 2 or 3 years from now, has the maturity to be able to leave the house, have millions of dollars, and not fall apart?
Well, I think you see it in soccer, you see it in baseball, that some of these kids can be successful, but
they're shoved into systems where they are.
I don't know. You're also talking about players not getting $20 million contracts. That's a lot of money for a kid who's not an adult yet.
But the problem is, you look at Messi, right? Example is Messi. Messi was 14 when they took him to go.
Well, you don't know how many guys.
But what they did is they took Messi. They take these child stars in FIFA and these huge ones like Real Madrid and Barcelona and Manchester United. They have academies.
Yeah.
They send them to basically a soccer school where they teach them not only about the game, but about how to handle your money, what's going to happen. This is the lifestyle you're going to be leading. They do that. They don't just throw them onto the field. They put them into academies.
They're trying to do that with the NFL and the NBA, and they're doing a better job. They're doing a better job than they have in the past. But the problem is that these teams have to take some responsibility over who they're drafting.
Yes.
And that's still a huge problem, is that you have owners who are just so engrossed with how athletic or how skilled a player is that they don't see behind the curtains of these major issues. And just look locally, there are owners around the area that are taking on players that have issues off the field. They're willing to deal with it because of the on-the-field production.
Yes.
Or on-the-court production.
So what you're saying is that until these teams are in one way or another, whether on their own volition or forced into taking responsibility for these kids, you're going to get a lot more Johnny Manziels. A lot more of these. And here's another thing. Johnny Manziel did not come from a broken home.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people will say. Well, these kids come from broken homes with not a complete family, and they had to go out a lot because whatever family member was there was working 3 jobs. You hear it all the time. in all the football lives
No,
that you
this
see.
is about players being treated like they're gods
Yeah, that's the thing.
their entire life.
So you look at a kid from, maybe an urban area who has had a hard, upcoming that gets a lot of money and then doesn't know how to handle it. You see just as much suburban kids going to colleges and then coming out of college with money. They can't handle it either.
Well, that's the thing is I don't know the one and done is going to fix everything because Johnny Manziel
Wasn't that the point of college, though, was to make them see what the world was before they go out into the world? It's like the gatekeeper.
But there's always going to be the problem. So it's hard to just point out one player or not. But I mean, it's a discussion that we could talk about all day. But we have to get on to Frisco high school football, and we have to do a review of the World Series next.
We're so excited to invite you to our Stacy Furniture Anniversary Sale.
Save today on Stacy's outstanding selection up to 50% off select items throughout the store.
Now's the time to buy that new bedroom, living room, or dining room suit. You can't beat these prices anywhere.
Name brands like Bernhard, Hooker, Universal, and Sherrill, all on sale today.
It's Stacy's Anniversary Sale only happens once a year.
Shop Stacy's today or visit us online at stacyfurniture.com.
Remember, when you're shopping at Stacy's, you're shopping with family.
And we're back. I lost Jim. Apparently, the loss by the Dodgers was too much emotionally for him. He really wanted to hold something over Shireen's head. And Shireen, I think, is still hungover from partying last night after the Astros won Game 7 of the World Series. Unbelievable. I mean, you go to L.A., LA thinks we got home field advantage. We're going to win this out. We got 2 games. You just got to win 2 games in LA with the home crowd going crazy. Well, the home crowd was silent after 2 innings. Yu Darvish gave up 4 earned runs, 5 overall after an error by Bellinger on a throw to first. It was a nightmare for Yu, and it didn't start out well, and it didn't end well. And he was out before the second inning even ended. They brought in Moreau to finish up, and then they brought in Kershaw to give them 4 innings. Kershaw was phenomenal when he came in, but it was too late. The Dodgers couldn't mount a comeback, and it ended with a 5-1 victory for the Astros. Not the drama that we expected out of Game 7, especially after such a dramatic World Series so far. And just really the most unbelievable World Series I've ever been seen, and maybe the most incredible World Series since probably the late 80s. But this was not the drama that we expected. 5-1, it was over early after 2 innings. The Dodgers were so far behind. They were trying to eke out runs late, but it just didn't work, and the Astros were able to shut them down. Look, there's questions about whether Yu Darvish should have been the starting pitcher in this game or not, but he was the guy to go to at this point. Yu Darvish was an all-star this year. He pitched phenomenally down the stretch for the Dodgers. Game 3, yes, it was a setback for postseason Yu Darvish, but they expected after a tough Game 3 that he would come out and pitch a lot better. There are questions about whether he's tipping his pitches or not. Yes, it looks like he is tipping his pitches, but honestly, he's still got to pitch better. There were way too many hanging breaking balls. His fastball had no life on it, no movement on it, and the Astros hitters were just destroying everything he threw up there. Springer with another home run. That made 4 games in a row that he had a home run, and 5 games out of 6 to finish off the World Series with a home run. So just an absolutely incredible World Series from Springer. He deserved the MVP, although some might say, look, Verlander should have gotten MVP. In fact, Verlander probably deserves a playoffs MVP for the Houston Astros. Bringing him in at the trade deadline, he's done exactly what they needed him to do, to be that strong piece in the rotation, to win games and take innings for that bullpen, because that bullpen was overworked. You could tell throughout the playoffs that they were overworked, and by the World Series, it was a question of how many runs were they going to give up, and could the Astros hitting manufacture enough runs to cover for it? And it became enough. In Game 7, they didn't even need their bullpen to really do any damage. Morton came in and was awesome to finish off the game. Didn't need the bullpen, just starting pitching. And look, this is an Astros team that was built in what we're calling the right way nowadays. We're talking about how they're building from within their farm system. They're trading for young pieces. They've been doing this for 6-7 years now. And 3 years ago, Sports Illustrated said 2017 the Astros would win the World Series. Their prediction was perfectly true. And this is what we've seen, is that we knew they were building from within. They were building with youth, and they were building what we're quoting as the right way of building, which, look, it happens in every sport, and we always praise teams for building that way, but it's not the easiest thing to do. You see a lot of teams that attempt to do it and fail. The Astros have been successful doing it, and it looks like that we're looking at a new era of Astros baseball, an era of Astros baseball that could extend into the next 10 years. They're going to be making playoff runs, and tough to be a Rangers fan during that time period, especially the Astros coming into the AL, enjoying the AL West. We're not going to see playoff baseball we're not going to see an AL West title for the Texas Rangers for a long time coming, I think, because this Astros team looks dominant. Seattle's getting a lot better. Oakland's going to be better. Anaheim still has a good team, and the Rangers look like they're on a downturn. And the Rangers maybe need to take a page out of the Astros book and start building from within. The Dodgers, they're going to come back strong next year. They've still got a young team. Clayton Kershaw is still a great pitcher. Who knows if Yu Darvish is going to be back? It looked like he was actually pitching for the Astros in this World Series, to be honest. And maybe he's trying to make a claim that he wants to play in Houston, that he's going to help the Houston Astros win another World Series by coming in and playing in Houston after this offseason. I wouldn't be surprised. Houston would be certainly one of the options for him, outside of LA, maybe outside of New York, maybe outside of San Francisco. Ohtani's coming over. Is he going to come and join you somewhere? Is he going to try and make a name for himself, in a big market as the number one pitcher, making a name for himself outside of the other Japanese players in the league right now? I think time's going to tell. We don't really know. People are saying one thing either way. And the Dodgers, they're going to come back. We're going to see the Astros come back. The only scare for the Astros is going to be this New York Yankees team and the way they play during in the postseason, how young their roster is, and how they're building from youth. I don't know. This Yankees team is going to be a challenge for the Astros to get past every year for the next at least 5 or 6 years, if not longer. Of course, the Yankees have a tendency to go out and buy some expensive older players, so we'll see if they make a change in that direction. But I like what the Yankees are doing as well. The Astros deserve this World Series championship, and congrats to them. Next, we're going to be talking about FISD football with Matt Wixon, and on to Friday. And we're going to talk a lot of football on Friday, but I've got a few other topics that I think are really going to be interesting and something completely new for our show. Next.
Marie, you have prediabetes.
Prediabetes? I don't have time to eat right or exercise. I'm a busy mom.
Oh, you're a busy mom.
Yeah.
This is great news. Busy moms never get prediabetes.
Wait, what?
Let me just... Yeah, this is all the people at risk for prediabetes, and way over here, busy moms. No? Whew.
I'm back with Matt Wixon, and we got tonight's game, Heritage against Wakeland. Big game for Wakeland. They really need to win out to stay in the playoff picture for 13-5A. This is going to be a tough matchup, though, because Heritage is also looking to lock up a playoff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge game for both of them. For both of them, if they lose, it makes things difficult. And if they win, they suddenly get in a good position. That shows you how the parity in this district in the middle, kind of the muddied middle. They're among 4 teams. They're trying to get those last 2 spots. We know Lone Star and Reedy they're in. So anyways, it is a huge game. Heritage, they lost their quarterback, Amari Jones, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And at that point, I thought, wow, it's going to be really difficult. He's a terrific player. Yeah. And but they've bounced back. They've made adjustments, and they're in the hunt. And I think this is going to be a really good game. I think Wakeland has done the same thing. They didn't lose anybody injured, but they had that tough start.
Yeah.
They lost that crazy overtime game to Centennial.
Yeah, that really hurt them. If they had gotten that win, they would be looking a lot prettier right now.
They would be in great shape, yeah, because they lost to Lone Star and Reedy, but those teams are undefeated in district. Those are, if you want to call them acceptable losses or expected losses. And but they've bounced back, and they're in position now where if they win out, they're going to be in the playoffs because they're going to win all those tiebreakers, head-to-heads and point.
And their schedule gets easier from here on out. Heritage's schedule is, I wouldn't say easier, but it's winnable at this point. This is really, Frisco and Liberty on Friday, it's really a game of pride for them.
Right.
Both teams are 0-4 over
they are.
and in district play. And we talked about hope on Tuesday for both of these teams. What do you expect the outcome to be here? Because it seems like at least Liberty has kind of put up a fight this year. I hate to say Frisco looks like, I'm not sure how much fight they've got left.
It looks, it's difficult. And I know talking to coaches, not specifically to Vance Gibson, Frisco's coach this year, but it's tough to keep the kids focused in and bought in when you keep getting the losses.
Especially big losses.
Big losses. But early in the season, they were competitive in some games, and they hung in some games. I'm sure they're going to play this as, hey, this is a great opportunity here. We have a team that is, much closer to our level. They seem very even going into this game, and there is a lot of parity in the district, so it's not like saying that they're terrible teams.
Sure.
They just had kind of a tough season. But I think when you talk about the high school experience for these guys, they know the playoffs are not they're not an option anymore. But there's still that great feeling of coming together for an achievement of some sort, and this could be a really big win for either team, and something that it doesn't save your season or whatever you want to call it, but it sure makes it feel a lot better when you get that one moment when you get to go out and say things came together for us and we won. And I'm sure those are the motivational things you're going to get on both sides to get those players going. And I think that even though there might have been some times when Frisco wasn't as competitive in the last few weeks, I think they're going to get up for this game, and I think it's going to be a good game. And probably will be close to the end.
Yeah, and then looking at the biggest matchup this weekend, Lone Star and Reedy, both teams already solidified themselves in the playoffs for 5A Division II.
Yep.
What do you expect from this game? Because Lone Star has just been so dominant the last 4 weeks. It looks like nobody's going to really be able to do anything offensively against them. And then offensively, they're just running the ball down everybody's throat. Can Reedy withstand that offensive pressure and then come out and make plays on offense? I think it's going to take some big plays.
Yeah.
Some, big, screen pass to get Lone Star out of their defensive game, long passes downfield. It's going to take big plays, it seems like, for Reedy to have a chance in this game.
Yeah, I think they're going to need to start well, which is not unusual for any underdog. But I think, they got to be able to. They have a good passing game. Speaking of Reedy, Josh Foskey is a great quarterback, and I think they're going to be able to move the ball against Lone Star to some degree. And I got to hope that loosens things up a little bit, that they can get Justin Gibson, their running back, a good running back, get him some chances to have some space against that really tough Lone Star front. Because if you can't throw the ball against Lone Star, they just tighten up and they just stop everybody. They have stopped everybody all year. Yeah. Even in their one loss to Denton Ryan, they really shut down a really good running attack. And so I think that's the key. You have to be balanced. They're not going to run for big yardage against Lone Star for sure, but you have to be able to pop a good run once in a while and to keep them honest and to loosen some things up. Otherwise, there just won't be any lanes to throw in for Foskey and that Reedy offense. And they do need to get a good start. You don't want to get behind against a team like Lone Star that can kill the clock in many ways, and they're going to score. Lone Star's offense, almost overshadowed by their defense. Yeah. Their defense is allowing an average of 10 points a game. And that's against a pretty good schedule, even though the district they've dominated. They played some good teams.
Just looking at the scoring overall in high school football, when I run down the score list, it's incredible how many points teams are putting up.
Yeah.
And for Lone Star to, defensively keep teams to 10 points per game is, I would say, pretty incredible.
Yeah.
There's not many offenses that are only scoring 10 points a game.
Right. And the other thing is, we were talking about Frisco and Liberty, maybe, how it could be easy to lose focus because, hope you feel is slipping away. Well, on the other side, you got Lone Star knowing that they're going to walk into each game pretty much they've been dominating so many, but they've stayed locked in.
Yeah.
They haven't let openings for other teams and let teams
And the
hang around
second
with them.
team comes out
Right.
and is dominant,
And is
and
doing-
so they're not losing focus as an entire team, not just
Right.
the offense and defense that start on the field. That entire team is locked in, it seems like, and for them to be able to rest their starters, week in and week out during the second half,
Right.
you're going to have a lot of fresh legs for these big games coming down the stretch and then into the playoffs. Lastly, Centennial and Independence. Two teams that have playoff hopes. Again, we're talking about a similar matchup to Wakeland and Heritage. What do you see between this matchup this weekend?
Well, I think Centennial is going to have to get some passing game. They got Hunter Williams, a real good running back, who has proven himself throughout the season. If they need to get a little bit of balance to keep that defense of Independence off balance, if Centennial wins this game, they're in great shape. I think that they really got to, put your eggs all in one basket.
Yeah.
But this is a really big game for them. It's the same for Independence. If Independence loses, their playoff hopes are pretty much gone. So it's a big game going both ways. Independence has Kevin Dick, quarterback, who's done a really good job, gets their offense going. It's another one that it's really hard to read. I think it's going to be close and go down to the end. And when you have those kind of things, it often comes down to big special teams play, turnover, something like that. I think that could be a close game. I think Heritage Wakeland will be a close game, and Reedy and Lone Star could be a close game.
It's a great weekend of matchups in terms of kind of the equality between the teams that are playing.
Right.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens after this weekend, because we may see kind of teams start to separate themselves for playoff runs.
Right.
Wakeland's got to win this weekend, it seems like, if they want to stay in it.
Yeah.
Centennial now has 2 wins against teams that they're vying for playoff position with.
Right.
And this third win would kind of set them apart and say, yes, we're one of the better teams in this district, and we are going to be in the playoffs.
And get out of that tiebreaker because it's just a nightmare when you get in there. You don't want to, get left out of the playoffs because of 5-point differential.
So Centennial's in a great place, and that huge win in overtime against Wakeland
That was a monster
really
win.
set them apart. Now you're looking back at that game thinking, wow, if that goes the other way, we're looking at something totally different.
It's a very
right now,
different
playoff
feel.
picture.
Yep.
What do you expect, looking at playoffs, really Lone Star and Reedy are the 2 teams that we think are going to have a legitimate shot at winning some playoff games. Are there other teams in Division II? I know on Tuesday you mentioned Aledo, that have, kind of the team and matchup that could beat either Lone Star or Reedy.
Well, some of it hinges on this week to see which teams are going to go D1 and which teams are going to go D2. So it's hard to know what those matchups will be, but I think Lone Star is suited for almost any matchup.
Yeah.
Not to say that they're bound to win a state championship, but I think in any game they go into, they can feel comfortable that they can make the adjustments they need to for whatever their opponent is. Reedy, it's hard to tell right now. I mean, I think they are a really good offense, and their defense has been playing better. So a lot of it will come down to the matchups and what they can do, but it's hard to bet against a team that just hasn't lost a game. So I think they both have a really good chance. I feel more strongly about Lone Star just watching their team and seeing the way, when you're winning by 50 points, you feel pretty good about your team. But so I think they both have good chances. I think in Division I, whoever the qualifiers are from Frisco, it's going to be a tougher time.
Yeah.
Those teams are a little bit bigger and more physical on average. It's not always.
Well, didn't
always the
Ryan
case.
and Highland Park look like kind of the class of the Division I
Right.
5A? John Stephen Jones, the quarterback from Highland Park, is ridiculously dynamic, and that Highland Park offense is just functions so well as a group. Defensively, that would be probably their biggest question.
Right.
And then Denton Ryan is just probably the most balanced team in 5A, and so those 2 teams are going to be really, really difficult to beat.
Yeah, and if you want to get to a state semifinal, which I think is a pretty bold hope for some of the Frisco schools that go to Division I, you would have to beat Highland Park because they're going to be in the same region, and then you would probably meet
have
Denton
to play
Ryan.
Denton Ryan next.
Yeah.
And then you got to play, for the championship, it would be Lake Travis or, somebody from.
Well, they're 6A now, but it would be somebody good.
from the Hill
Cedar
Country.
Park or
Yes.
something like that. There are some very good teams.
It's not going to be easy going for a Division I team. Division II is really, going to be the best shot.
It usually
for a
is.
Frisco
It's
team.
not always, although I wouldn't want to play Aledo. So
True, Alito has.
there are some
classically
really
been
good
great.
teams out
And
there.
it seems like every year they're in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a challenge, but it's been an awesome year for Frisco
been fun,
football. And I think next year, as Frisco gets better and as Liberty gets better, it's only going to get more difficult in this district to get out and get into the playoffs.
I think every year there's going to be a lot of parity. It's going to be tough to get out. Yeah.
But it's been an awesome year so far, and we're going to find out more. Next week, we're going to have a clearer idea of what the playoffs are going to look like.
I sure hope so. I mean,
But it
there are
seems
some
like,
ways
yes,
it could go. It could get
just
muddy.
more and more
But I
confusing.
think chances are be a little clearer next week. Yeah.
That's it from Off the Bench.